What if it were easy? Let's just go there. What if it were easy to clear the block? What if you were feeling stuck and it were simple? Have you considered that? If I say that, do you feel diminished or discounted? Like the size of your problem's not understood? That was me.
Welcome to the Point with Jeff Spikes, the show about achieving goals, embracing growth, and finding your true path. And now, here's your host, Jeff Spikes.
Hello and welcome to The Point. You are here on the part 3 of a 3-part series talking about what it means to be stuck, feeling blocked from what you want, and learning what you can do, strategies and ways of thinking and ways of reframing and finding perspective so that you can clear those blocks. What if it were easy? Let's just go there. What if it were easy to clear the blocks? What if you were feeling stuck and it were simple? Have you considered that? If I say that, do you feel diminished or discounted? Like the size of your problem's not understood? That was me. Some things can be said in the world that can have you feeling like the size of the problem's not understood. There's ways to get past that, and DM me if you want to learn more about how to work on that. And the first step to that is just consider. The intention here is not to invalidate you if you have big problems or big feelings or big obstacles that you've overcome. The idea is to give you the choice to allow yourself to move away from the stories and the belief systems and the thought process that are there when you're ready. I wasn't ready when some people came along and tried to help me move past the stories I had about the biggest obstacles I'd overcome, because it was part of the identity. So if you're there, it's okay that you're there. You're not alone. I've been there and other people have been there. And hopefully the idea is you'll still listen. You're invited to still listen and make the choice to not feel invalidated by what I'm saying and just consider the possibility of what if. And if your answer is that's no, that's totally respected and honored. If your answer is yes, I'm ready to let go of these stories and these beliefs and these things that are holding me back, then you are definitely in the right place. And you will have an amazing opportunity. And this whole conversation started, the series of these started for you because of the idea of talking about grief and being in mid-year, where a lot of life has happened since you considered ending last year strong and in a way that wrapped up all the goals you had for last year, and running into the 2024 with already targeting all the things that you wanted. Some of you have clearly listed for me or for yourself, but shared with me your lists of things that you accomplished in the first quarter of the year that were annual goals. And here we are in the summer, and it's time for summer vacations and summer breaks. I just spent 3 days canoeing in the Boundary Waters, Canadian Boundary Waters in northern Minnesota, Boundary Water Canoe Area. Canoe Country Outfitters are absolutely the best folks in the world if you want to go experience that. And was unplugged. I actually took recording equipment to record and was fighting more with the mosquitoes and decided not to do an episode in a net or with nets on or in a tent. But it was absolutely a fascinating journey to portage and canoe and camp and do all those things. Now, if you don't know what those things are, check it out. It's a great adventure to go up and experience being away from people and in the wilderness and enjoying the flow of the water and the weather conditions and different camp spots and everything else. It's really a beautiful area. We got into this together, talking about grief and being in mid-year and discussing the idea of how we can hit mid-year, take our vacations, and really use that as a gauge of knowing where you are. You can take this time to gauge knowing where you are. And, the discussion was laid out to use your level of stress prior to a vacation to kind of gauge where you are in your preparedness for life and the things that you want. What is your stress level in wanting to make sure that everything's getting done to prepare for you being gone? Or are all the things that need to happen are done and scheduled around this vacation so that you can take it stress-free? that can potentially be a gauge for you as to how well you're doing at managing the sense of freedom you're looking for. Now, you may feel fulfilled. You may feel good about yourself by how important you are, valuable you are in a certain situation. If you're growing a business or how you're working with your family or anything else, you might be or helping others. You might be in the middle of some things where your presence is part of the critical nature of what you're doing. And that can be something that could add stress. It could also be joy. And it can also be an opportunity for growth in your absence. If you're in one of those pivotal roles or times of your life where you're really driving something forward, it can be a real test of, it can also be a real gauge of your own faith, because taking these breaks is important. Nonetheless, we were talking about some of the things that can get in our way of moving forward and how it's possible to become stuck. Life events can happen and can get you stuck, can have you feeling completely blocked from what you want or completely thrown off target or off track from what you're trying to achieve. And that's okay. You're not alone. And if you're overwhelmed, some things that you can do to circumvent feeling overwhelmed, the multitude of tools that are out there to help build lists and do other things to specifically meet your needs of the best type of list you can use. The caution not to allow picking a list to overwhelm you and add to the pile of things that need to happen. That type of obstacle starts happening when you're already beyond all those first two phases and really stuck down in this place of being negative to yourself. If you're feeling a sense of defeat and a level of defeat that is intensely strong to the point where you're speaking poorly to yourself, you're measuring yourself against others, you're looking at social media and seeing people's outsides and measuring your insides based on their outsides, looking at the presentations people are showing you in the world and comparing yourself to those and feeling worse for the wear. Those are things to avoid. And the idea of negative self-talk is something that is completely familiar to me. One of the promises made was that I would share with you some of what that looks like and ways to overcome those parts of negative self-talk. So if you've allowed the sense of overwhelm, or you've become detached enough from your sense of purpose and understanding of what you want, or if you haven't developed enough interest, or you've had a challenge of really allowing yourself, there's a key piece of all of this that we haven't talked about in the last few weeks, and that's allowing yourself. Allow yourself. Give yourself permission to want what you want without judgment or cause. If it's an emotion you're looking for, if it's a sense or feeling you're looking for, what do your surroundings look like when that's been achieved? If it's a physical thing or a way of living or a place or a vehicle or a trip, what is it that you want? It has no bounds. But if you don't allow yourself to have that desire, if some form of judgment is getting in your way, you will find it in your thoughts. You will find it in the way you're speaking to yourself. So it's important you give yourself permission. Now, if you're stuck, if you're feeling completely blocked, and you're not feeling any sense of flow in your life, then pay attention to your thoughts, and that's going to help really clarify some things. A really simple way to say it is if you're speaking negatively to yourself, just stop it. And there's a really funny, what's the name? Is it Bob Newhart? You can YouTube Bob Newhart being a therapist saying stop it. And it's just a funny play on what happens when you're belaboring a lot of problems in your life, and that there's some things that you can just stop. And he brings some levity and light to the idea. So I say that with some levity, that some things you can just stop. Just stop it. Right? So if you catch yourself saying something, just stop. Choose something different to say. If you're working with designing strengths, if you've read the book and you're working in that process, or if you're in one of the groups, one of the process groups with that, and you're having issues with that, bring it up, because you can create mantras from your strengths. You can take a combination of your processing, the way of learning and understanding how you process, kind of what your ideas around your personality and the way you go about doing things, and then look at your results of your strengths from Gallup with Clifton Strengths. And you can find really short phrases to say to yourself. I call them base repeatables, and I teach them as base repeatables so that as you have negative thoughts, you can use these base repeatables. And it's really not a whole lot different than an affirmation, other than affirmations have a little bit of a bad rap to not really work, because if you're just regurgitating a statement over and over and over that you know isn't true, it's not going to help you get anywhere. But the true use of an affirmation has more to it. It has visualization. It has a belief in what you're saying. It has some visceral nature and connection to something other than just words you repeat. There was a statement back in the 80s that said if you have a negative thought and you say the reverse of it 10 times, that you've countered the power of the negativity of that one negative thought. And now we've learned that that's a slow way to get there. However, if that works for you, guess what? It still works. Regardless of how fast or slow it is. I don't know if it's slower. If it's what you'll do, take the opposite of what you're saying negative and repeat the positive. Repeat the opposite 10 times, and you will counter the negative thought. I have proven that in my life to be true. We use left foot yes in a lot of situations. If you don't know what left foot yet is, DM me. I'll send it to you. Look up Fazaro, and he'll share it with you. Left foot yes is something we've tested with vets going into the VA. Every time your left foot hits the ground, you say the word yes in your mind. You don't have to say it out loud. Depending on where you're walking, people might wonder what the heck you're doing. Every time your left foot hits the ground, if you said out loud, yes, 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 and you might have fun with that. But the idea is, whether it seems corny or not, doesn't matter. It works. If you're walking into a situation that you think might not be as something that's super positive, or you're expecting problems, change the outcome by putting every time you put your left foot down, saying the word yes to yourself. And there's science around that says that then opens up the right side of your mind to creativity and possibility and hope and options, and all kinds of positive things can come of it that you wouldn't think otherwise could. And it's been one of the ways that I've become a huge success story with the Veterans Administration and can speak to other veterans about how to make use of the benefits they have at the VA. There's other ideas and ways of thinking through this. And some of it is, if you're breaking free of some of the overwhelm, or if you're trying to find, if you're looking to set routines in your life, if coming out of being stuck, one of the best things that you can do is redevelop, even if you have them already, is refresh, reinvigorate, and redevelop your daily routines. And if you don't have a morning and a night routine, for sure, pick those up. Have at least one of them, if not both. And if you already have both, add a third. Add some middle of the day routine, a check-in, so to speak. And we create these check-ins. We use calendar invites for it sometimes, or reminders. And it sometimes is just the perfect connecting point to pull something through the day. Sometimes, one way to do it is create triggers. If this happens today, think about that tonight. There's ways there's tools and other things to do that can work with that. But the idea being, you can create a middle of the day routine that's like a 3-minute routine or less. But if you're reinvigorating your routines, then you want to build into that the idea of visualizing speaking well to yourself and telling yourself the items of truth about yourself that are positive and kind, and countering any of the negativity that's happening. If the 70 plus years of science from Clifton Strengths is true, and that you are more unique than 1 in a million, 1.33 million to 1, that the same top 5 will be in the same order. And if it's all 34, it's like 34 million to 1, that you'll have the same themes in the same order. It's just clear. If that is true, then you are unique, and there's no reason to ever compare yourself to others. There's no need to compare yourself to anyone else, even if they have similar strengths, because the way they all line up and the way you access them based on your life history and your experience is going to be different. It doesn't mean not to collaborate with others. And now you might say we're mincing words, but the idea is stop comparing yourself to anyone other than yourself. And this comes back to the idea of creating a baseline for yourself for any behaviors that you want, and just starting from there. If you're talking down to yourself because you're below the overwhelm, and talking down to yourself because you can't get anything done and you feel stuck, and you just keep repeating those words that you're feeling, that you're thinking, that you are that, then that is going to grow. But if you can find even the minimum effort. I was working with someone that really wanted to start walking and that was going through a ton of stuff with their family. For about 3 months, we were communicating, and it was like, can you walk in place? We whittled it all the way down to the smallest action was, can you walk in place? And they agreed. I can walk in place for 3 minutes a day, every day, once a day, and never miss it. And I can guarantee that will happen. And I think they started with 5 or 10 minutes was a bigger number. And then after 3 or 4 days, they didn't do it. And they caught themselves not doing it. They turned themselves in. I said, okay, great. Drop it to 5. And then it was 3. And at 3 minutes a day, they were able to sustain that for 18 or 20 days. I said, great. Are you okay with a success rate of 18 and missing 1? Could you up it and do 15 days and skip a day? Could you allow yourself 1 day off in 15 or whatever, right? Finding the allowances that you're given. And there's ways of creating visuals and other things that can help you see these and help trigger ways to automate these things in our minds and make it easier for ourselves. That's one of the benefits of certain coaches, is that they can help you work through that. There's circles and boxes and other things that you can lay out and start creating visuals for yourself to say, this is the desired behavior. This is the gray area. I'm going to allow myself to give myself some grace. But if this over here happens, that's a no-no. That's a reset, a redirect. Now, on the gray area, I'm going to turn myself in and keep moving. But on that other area, I'm going to make a shift or a difference to reset and move forward in a different way. Something that I can then sustain. Everyone that we've walked through with, if you've gone through this with us, throw up your comments, starting at a baseline of a minimum. Some people go, well, that's ridiculous to do that. When I started my journey of getting in the best shape of my life, the most I could do on an elliptical was 5 minutes, and I dropped mine to 3, I believe, and I did 3 minutes a day, every day without fail, and I developed the desire and confidence built in me to want to do more. At 10 days, I'm like, this is stupid that I'm only doing 3. I can definitely do 5 now. And then I noticed, I went one day, I can do 20. But I did 20, and then guess what? I didn't do it for a few days, right? So then I learned, okay, so stepping forward that fast didn't help me. And maybe even I evaluated and went through some thought process that maybe that was more about fear. That, man, I just need to hurry the process along because I may not have all that much time. And so it's coming more from a place of negative self-talk and fear. Whereas just allowing myself to do it for 5 minutes a day and allowing for a natural desire to come up to say, well, maybe now I could do 8 or 10. And not having to make that huge jump. Now, I'm not beating myself up for trying the 20 minutes because now I can do 30 minutes or an hour if I want to, and it's not an issue. I don't love walking on a machine. That's not my favorite thing to do in the world, but I can knock out 30 minutes if those steps are important to me that day and I haven't hit my steps, the steps I want for my averages that week. And I don't measure them. I don't worry about the daily count as much as I do my average for the week now, because that's how my schedule runs. However, I keep my average up, and then I prefer to move over to the weights faster, and I prefer to get my steps more naturally. Those are all my choices. That's not the point. My choices have nothing to do with your benefit or what you could get from this or what's going to work for you. What's important here is you. Can't tell you how many people, especially if you're sitting in a spot where you're feeling overwhelmed or you're feeling in a place where you're in negative self-talk, anything I want is inconsequential, doesn't matter, has no bearing, and how I work with anyone else doesn't matter. All that matters is what you want and what you're willing to do. That's all that matters. What do you want? You're worth it. You deserve it. You're requiring, if you're in a place of feeling stuck, you're requiring some service for yourself and allowing others to maybe be of service to you, to support you and getting out of that stuck point. That's what historically we call friendships and accountability. I thought getting in the best shape of my life would make me judge others more, because my picture of other people that were in such good shape was they were always judging me. And the opposite was true. As I learned to take care of myself more and I understood the mental work that it took and the physical things that happened and all of the things that it took to get in good shape, gave me enough reason and respect for why people stay the same, why they may not want to go through the effort or the pain or the struggle or the emotion or anything else of wanting to change. It gave me more respect for that person. And it also gave me a great deal of respect for those who choose to step forward. But the judgment didn't grow. The judgment decreased and the understanding increased. So what I thought was going to happen was the opposite of what actually happened in the experience of it. Because knowing something doesn't mean I have the understanding of the experience of it. That's what allowed me to shift from not loving the gym to loving the gym. Walking into any gym and feeling great about being there, regardless of what my current daily position was with wanting to be there. I began to understand what it took to be there and have that level of consistency and how that works laterally to other things. So if you're in a negative if you're in a negative self-talk place, if you feel less than other people, one of the most powerful things you can do that I did is set yourself some daily behaviors that you will guarantee that you will do that will benefit yourself. They don't even have to be related to the biggest problem in your life, but something good for yourself, and do it for the reason of demonstrating a sense of love to yourself, a sense of care to yourself. Do it as a demonstration, because the day you wake up and you're still negative in your mind and you're still saying all these negative things, if you're doing it as a demonstration, you don't have to feel it. You can just tell yourself. And that's a way to connect the physical sensation of something to the feeling of gratitude for it when you're not really feeling it because your mind is so powerfully taken over in a negative way. And then you can tell yourself, I'm doing this as a demonstration of self-care, of self-love. I'm doing this to benefit myself. I'm doing this to benefit myself. And when I do this, I get stronger, and the people around me also get stronger because they see the benefit, and that gives them hope. Or however you want to phrase and word that, that's a way to begin to reverse the process. And you do that consistently enough. So even if it's just 3 minutes a day, that is known to grow. Now, doing it alone, if you walk away from this episode, you've missed the point. If you go to do it on your own without telling anyone or having anyone hold you accountable to this. And I don't mean, when I say holding you accountable, by shaming you if you don't make it happen. I mean accountable by knowing that you have a desire to do this in your heart. So when you don't, they respond to you in a way that says, what happened for you? What was going on with you that I know how badly you wanted this. What happened? What could you do differently next time? What could I do to help you? Hey, you made it 8 days. Would it help if I started checking in at 6 days and got you over the hump and we could get you to 9 days? All we're looking for is consistent improvement at that point. And in that process, you are guaranteed to have an increase of desire to do more. And if you begin to then sense and feel a better sense of love or care for yourself, that will also then inspire and is a way of quickly then wanting to do other things as well and begin to use different words with yourself. So stop the negative words and the negative phrases when you hear them. Develop some ways of saying things, base repeatables that you can say repeatedly to yourself that makes sense, that build a new baseline for yourself. Start doing something every day that works for you as a demonstration of self-love, and start making those actions, and then use the words, remind yourself that you did that and call it a win, and start stacking little things as wins. You know, if that doesn't work and you want additional help, DM me and let me know. We'll put you into a program with that, with Designing Strengths. You get the book and you'll join one of the weekly groups, and you can work through that process with some friendly accountability, where you can just be present with the idea of how you're going to walk through this in a little bit more experiential way, without shame or judgment. If you're not wired in how you tend to process, and what your strengths and your gifts are of how you do things. If stacking little wins doesn't work for you because of your processing style, then there's other ways to get there. But the most common ways most people really value intentionally stacking up the small things they do as wins and qualifying those things, measuring them, tracking them, and calling it a win and setting a benefit or a reward for yourself. So you begin to train yourself in a visceral, physical way to appreciate yourself more and win more. And those are things that I did for myself that really helped me turn them. I say stacking wins doesn't always work for everyone because that didn't always work for me. I could stack a whole bunch of wins and still say negative things to myself and didn't seem to gain the same traction. But I also then learned more. I dug more into and connected my strengths to my processing, the ways I process, and started to connect some other things that work for me based on verbal and intuitive processing that allowed me to connect in differently to it. I don't know how you process until I know you. And for those of you that I work with that know, you know what I'm talking about, make some, feel free to comment if you want to come out of your shell and share this stuff. Now would be a great time in a way of encouragement to others of what works. So that the point today is no one can be a better version of you than you. Nobody can help you. Nobody can do anything for you. As far as managing your thoughts and the words that you use with yourself and others, you're the only one that can actually change that. You can get support, help, all kinds of things, but you're the only one that can control and change those things. You can manage the thoughts you're using because there is some grace and freedom in noticing the words we're using that aren't as resourceful as others and then learning to shift that. And it doesn't have to be done perfectly in the way that if perfect means you never do it again. All of this is a growth in process. Now, I will tell you this is a series for a reason. Everything becomes simpler and easier if you grow yourself into a space where you can allow yourself to want. You can give yourself permission and allow yourself to desire the things that you're truly in your heart to desire. You can frame those as something that God put in your heart and that are beneficial not just for you, but that help you be beneficial to the universe. There's therapies and coaching programs and processes that we can help you tap into and work through, depending specifically on what those are. All of that has become so incredibly specific, whether it's developmental trauma or adult trauma from, accidents or experiences that you've had as an adult. Like there's all types of different levels of trauma, all different types and levels of belief systems and other things that happen with grief. Everyone's unique in their gifts and everyone's unique in how they've experienced the world around them. Your internal response and reaction is different than anyone else's because of your strength. And sometimes those are the filters and times when the greatest part of ourselves can get in the way and cause issues. My number one strength when I took Clifton Strengths is belief. And that can get in my way more than anything. If I'm highly connected to a belief I have in something, I will not come off that perch easily, even if it's the best thing I could do to help me get what I want. So that strength, that theme of strength in myself can become an incredible weakness, a block, something that keeps me from moving forward. In these filters, sometimes the best of us can also become something that we really need to hone. But there's where intention is important. If you're using intention, if you're really being intentional in what you're doing and why you're doing it, knowing where you want to go, well, then there's a reason to want to hone these things in and work on them more specifically and use a finer brush, for a painting metaphor, rather than using a spray gun or a big fat brush to paint as much surface as you can, really getting down into the nuance and the small brushes to really design that best part of yourself and how you move forward and how to disallow the greatest part of yourself to be something that causes problems in your life by reeling it in and using it more specifically. So there's more analogies for that to come that we can talk about. Maybe that'll be where we go next week. It's a topic we have covered before, but there's so many different angles and ways to cover that. The idea here is if you're stuck, these last few weeks were designed to help you find ways to not feel stuck, to allow yourself to break free from these blockages and obstacles and these places that keep you feeling like you're in mud. Get clarity in your life and move forward in a powerful way. And even if you hit the ground running this year and were super powerful in how you were running, little tiny things can just slow us down for a minute. That is a form of blockage or a stuck point that you can just blow through quickly, easily, and effortlessly. And the point is that these last three episodes, were designed to open up some conversation and some consideration in your mind and help you know and have confidence and try and experience and move forward with some strategies that will eliminate the reasons and the ways that you get stuck. So the point here has been service to you and to your loved ones and to help you be the best version of yourself. So leave comments, DMs, message me, and share with me what wins you're having. And if stacking wins is happening, give me an example of some stacked wins. Love to hear them and share them and help encourage others with that. We are here to be of service to others, and your sharing always does benefit. So with that note, have a wonderful week. See you next time. Thank you for joining us for another amazing episode of The Point with me, Jeff Spikes. Please visit jeffspikes.com for everything you would need to know to engage with me offline. And lastly, thank you for your time, your attention, and your consideration. This is The Point.